All right, we've got an all-new steering wheel for the Tesla Model Y. This is the new Yolk steering wheel from Hannshow. Let's get right into it. Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, my name is Desmond. I make content about tech and travel gear, and we're talking all about my 2023 Tesla Model Y and this new Yolk steering wheel upgrade from Hannshow. So it's probably no surprise, aftermarket yokes have been around for a bit, but what's special about this particular one is this is modeled exactly after the OEM yoke in the Tesla Model X and the Tesla Model S. And that's why I'm so excited about this particular model. So before we jump into it, this right here is the box from Hannshow. If you've ever seen any of my other videos in the past, Hanshow's got some okay packaging, but this is their newest packaging of their products. It looks great. I mean, this came in a really nice matte satin black finish. You've got the artwork on the front so you know what the product is. And again, the quality of the package on arrival was great. Some of the packages I've received from Hannshow in the past have been a little beat up, but I think their new distributor and their new packaging is going to solve for that problem. So again, as you can see, here is the box. This is the yoke in question. Like I said, it is inspired by the Model S and X yoke that you'll find in their vehicles straight from factory. And that's one of the things that I really like about this versus some of the other yoke designs out there previously from Hannshow and from other third-party resellers. All right, let me put the box down because I've already gone ahead and installed the yoke. I received it and I was so excited to get it installed that I went ahead and just did it myself. The nice thing is it was a very, very quick install. So as I mentioned, this is an exact replica of the yoke you're gonna find in the Model S and the Model X. The only difference is this has been resized. It's slightly smaller to fit the proportions and the profile of the Model 3 and the Model Y, which is perfect. I love the way that this thing feels in my hand and I love the way that it looks. The other thing I'll say about this yoke is it came with all the internal electronics. So I didn't have to switch out the buttons. I didn't even have to switch out the computer module. All I had to do was plop this in to the center column and install it, and it was basically ready to go. So I'm just going to give you a quick glimpse at install. It was crazy easy because this thing came with its own internal electronics. I didn't have to do anything more then disengage the airbag on my current steering wheel, unplug that, and then take a breaker bar to unscrew the bolt holding in my current steering wheel. And then I just replaced it with this one, tightened up the bolt. And what you're also going to see here is I decided to use the OEM airbag. I did not switch out the airbag cover with the included leather airbag cover, which would have been cool, but you know what, not the additional work I wanted. So I just used the OEM airbag and it took me about 10 minutes to install this all on my own. And again, because all the electronics were included, so no additional screws to remove, no computer modules to swap around, no harnesses to switch. It was really just plug and play. So now that we've got it installed, I will tell you this thing looks great. And it looks great because it's actually quite OEM. Like I mentioned, it's a replica of the X and the S. So if you've seen one of those before, this is a familiar look to you, right? It's not as crazy as some of my other custom steering wheels. And again, it just looks like it's straight out of factory. Other than that, there's not really too much to say about the shape of the vehicle without getting this on the road. I mean, build quality is fantastic. This thing is really easy to drive. So let's just hop on the road and let's talk about my experience testing this for several weeks. All right, so we are in the car and we are testing out the Hannshow Model Y yoke steering wheel. This thing is a replica of the yoke steering wheel you'll find in the X and the S, except it's just designed to be slightly smaller to meet the proportions of the Y and also the Model 3. And what I like about this so far is how OEM this actually looks. I really love the design of this. It's obviously different enough from a circle steering wheel that you kind of get that vibe, that cockpit, that spaceship futuristic vibe that you want from a Tesla, but because it is modeled after the steering wheels in the X and the S, it feels very OEM and it's very familiar to people who have seen that before. So let's talk about driving with this thing. I actually really enjoy it. I have to honestly say I don't think I would go back to a circular steering wheel if I had the choice. And again, I do a lot of my driving single-handed, and you can do that really well with a Yolk steering wheel. And there's a few reasons for that. One is because of this square shape, you always have a flat angular surface to apply pressure to, which means it's great for taking sharp turns, U-turns, and even three-point turns, because there's always a point on the steering wheel that you can grab that will give you a good amount of control. Slightly different than a circular steering wheel, where obviously everything is curved and circular. There is room for slippage. That's pretty rare if you've driven a car for a long time. But what I noticed immediately off the bat is how easy it is to control the car with a rectangle, because there's square surfaces that I just have to apply a little bit of pressure to, and it'll control the vehicle. So go ahead and just take a right here. And like I said, I do one-handed driving with this Yolk, and it's so easy. So like to take a right turn like that, just apply a tiny bit of pressure to this corner piece here, and I can maneuver the vehicle incredibly easily. And I'm gonna show you a U-turn as well, which is just as simple to execute. And that's the nice thing when you have a rectangular steering wheel like this, you have access to a different center of gravity, right? So you can just quickly pivot, spin the car around with one hand, and now you've got a perfectly executed U-turn. Like I said, it's just really easy to maneuver and control this vehicle because there are points where you can grab that are so much closer to the center of the steering wheel column, and that means a small movement causes a large movement for the vehicle. So let's actually talk about build quality while we're getting onto the highway to test autopilot. But the build quality of this thing is great. This is all Nappa leather, so you've got Nappa leather here, you've got Nappa leather along the tops, and then you've got that high quality satin black finished ABS plastic over here for the trim, and you've even got some of that silver finish right here. What I really like about this is this kit came with a leather airbag cover, which I decided not to use. I wanted to just go with the standard OEM airbag cover. It made the installation incredibly easy. It only took me about 10 minutes to install this on my own. And I'm not really a DIY guy. This isn't a DIY channel, but just seeing the instructions, installing it, it was so simple. But what I really like now is you have a mixture of OEM materials that make this thing look pretty much straight out of factory. You've got high quality leather, you've got the OEM rubberized airbag cover, I've got some satin black finish all over, and then you've also got factory buttons here and electronics that came with the steering wheel. So I didn't have to replace the harness, I didn't have to do any of that. It was really just plug and play. And then let's talk about the shape of the handles here. I like the 90-degree grips. This gives you a good firm hold on the steering wheel. I like that a lot. It gives me this like spaceship, fighter pilot vibe. It's also the same kind of steering wheel you'd find in an F1 vehicle or an F1 simulator if you've ever played with one of those. And then I was recently watching the Fifth Element again, classic Bruce Willis movie, but the taxi that he drives also has a yoke. So I dig it. I love this look. And then another thing outside of looks is I actually like how this feels in the hand. Like this feels like a natural way to hold something. It doesn't apply any pressure to the wrist. It's just really nice and it's easy to control the maneuverability of the steering wheel. And I'm just gonna go ahead and show you now that we're on the highway. We're gonna go ahead and activate our autopilot, and it works like you would expect. Again, the install doesn't change anything about the functionality of the vehicle. You're simply replacing the OEM steering wheel with a yoke-shaped steering wheel. It still uses OEM parts. It still installs and plugs in exactly like you would expect, straight from factory. So no surprise, autopilot works perfectly fine and you have full control. On top of that, what I love about this for autopilot, I use this on a massive road trip from San Francisco all the way to LA. But this flat area gives you a great place to just rest your hand to apply pressure to the steering wheel. So I was doing this a lot during the road trip. Again, one hand, just resting my hand here, really nice. And another place I like to put my hand during autopilot is right here on the corner. This is super simple. It gives you the pressure you need, and when you need to take over, you can simply just knock this column and then take over control of the vehicle. But again, this corner gives me a lot of control over the maneuverability of this steering wheel. And another thing you'll notice that's great about the steering wheel, specifically for my setup, I have a Hannshow H6 screen right here, and because of that, I have clear visibility into all of the driving information I want as a part of my driving experience. I really love this combo. It gives me that full like spaceship vibe, very futuristic. You've got a great looking steering wheel, lots of control, and then you've also got all of the information you need. So as you can see here, I've got my autopilot information here, speed limit, distance for autopilot, all the information I need, easy access to, and because this is a Yolk steering wheel, I have visibility right into that. All right, so all in all, having had this Hannshow Yolk installed in my Model Y for a while now, I gotta tell you, I love this thing. It has been really easy to drive. What I'll add is because of the shape and the inclusion of all the electronics, the lack of customization as well, I think this thing is priced pretty great for something that'll get you a Model S, Model X style interior look and feel. This thing is less than $400 with my discount code. I think it's really worth getting if you want a Yolk, especially a Yolk that is basically OEM. And as I mentioned before, that's probably the thing that I love most about this is it's not a huge departure from what you're gonna find from Tesla. You step into the car, if you didn't know any better, you would think this is an OEM straight out of factory. Yolk steering wheel in a Tesla Model Y, the buttons look and work great, the steering wheel is well shaped, the quality of the materials is really nice. And one of my favorite things is I love the design under the airbag. That is, again, a design that's lifted from the X and the S. So it just looks more premium. And again, having driven it, I don't know if I can go back to a circular steering wheel. I really enjoy driving with a Yolk. It just feels like I'm in the cockpit of a spaceship. And like I mentioned in the driving demonstration, because of the way that it's shaped, it's actually a little bit easier to maneuver around, even for sharp turns, U-turns, and three-point turns. It's really fun and comfortable to drive. And it's especially great if you've got a Hannshow screen and when you're using it in autopilot. So with all of that said, I would highly recommend this. It's not a very expensive upgrade, but it makes a huge difference to the interior cabin look and feel. So I think that's a great value for what you're getting. Anyways, if you enjoyed this content, hit that like button, subscribe for more videos just like this. I will catch y'all in the next one.